Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Wolves Report. I'm Ryan Lester, and thank you for joining us for episode 148. Tonight, we are going to give you our player and match analysis of Wolves' heartbreaking 2-1 defeat at Arsenal. We're going to talk about that concept kit. We'll talk about Jeff's Radio WM interview, take some of your questions, and look ahead to Brentford. New face on the show for this season tonight. We are delighted to have co-founder of the Old Goal Pack, Nui, on. Nui, thank you so much. I know it's been a busy weekend for yourself. Appreciate your time on a Sunday evening. Also, we've got our club captain, Noki, to keep the children behaving well this evening. Good evening, Noki. Noki, straight to business. Arsenal 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1.
It's a difficult one to look at, isn't it? I mean, I went into this one expecting an absolute drubbing. I thought if we come away with anything less than 4, it's probably been a successful afternoon. But I thought we set up very well. We were very solid. We had solid banks, and defensively we were very, very good. I think we limited them to nothing in the first half. And we actually had a little bit of threat ourselves. It was probably Hwang's best performance for a couple of years, to be fair. It was a lovely break, and he was unlucky not to actually get the opener. So we had a good system. We were kind of playing a game that, in a strange way, I think we sort of needed. It was a game with no expectation. It was a game with no pressure, where we could just set up and try to be quite organised, because we knew there was no sort of expectation on us. We didn't think we were going to win the game. We didn't think we were going to get anything other than beaten. So they fought. They worked hard. There was no lack of effort. Most of them. I think up front we still got problems, but I thought across the defensive line we were very good. It's probably the most solid we've been probably all season, to be fair. In midfield, Gomez and Andre looked really, really good. We carried a little bit of a threat, and we looked like a decent side without carrying too much going forward. I always felt we were going to lose the game, though, even at 0-0 at half time, and even when we got the equaliser, you still thought there was going to be another twist. I think, unfortunately, when the football gods are against you, you concede the goals we conceded, don't you? It's just one of those. It's one of those things. But there's things you can take from the game. I thought Matheus Mane in particular was excellent when he came on. Wonderful assist for the goal. Tolu showed us exactly what happens when you actually make a run to get in front of your centre half and try and get yourself into a position. There was definitely positives we can take from it, and it's one of our better performances from an organisational point of view. But unfortunately, it's the same old story. We've lost again.
Yeah, it is another defeat, Nui. But again, like the Aston Villa game, it's a glorious defeat. We went to Villa thinking this could be a derby humiliation, but we found a shape that worked, the sort of the 5-3-2. I don't know what happened against Forest. That was a really confusing performance. And against Man United, but we kind of found ourselves again last night. There was, as Noki said, there was togetherness, there was a shape, there was a certain amount of housery which we really needed. So, although lacking talent, it looked a team performance again and a real togetherness.
Yeah, completely agree. Thanks for having me on, first of all. It's great to be here. Yeah, same old story, isn't it? Although it started to make me think whether Rui Silva has already had an impact, kind of in the dressing room and on the training pitch. So, yeah, I feel, like you said, Noki, Matheus Mane looked really, really good. And the passion that he's showing, that's all you got to do as a Wolves player. If you show the fans that kind of passion, that kind of drive, that kind of tenacity, you're going to go down well. So, yeah, much better display. Look, did we expect anything out of the game? Absolutely not. But to actually be coming away from that game feeling gutted that we've not got a point out of it is huge. And is there going to be many times that we say we scored 3 goals this season and still didn't win?
It's quite incredible, Noki. We've scored 3 goals. I mean, but what does it say though, really, about the performance, Noki, that it's taken Arsenal to get 2 own goals off us for them to be anywhere near it? Granted, they've got a few players out, but this is a team with Declan Rice, £100 million. This is a squad, like £1 billion squad against probably arguably one of the worst Premier League squads there's been for quite a long time. And we gave them a real game. And I come out of Villa feeling proud. I don't usually feel that after a derby, but I felt like they represented me and everyone else that day. But this one last night was I don't know. The one thing I wasn't expecting was to come away feeling gutted. And at the end of that game, I caught up on the game later on, but it was gutting.
It was. I think when you play a team like Arsenal, if you're going to get anything, you need the stars to align, don't you? You need them not to be at it. you need a system to work, you need everyone to do their job. And that's kind of what happened. They had the mentality of, we'll turn up and we'll just roll these over quite comfortably, which is pretty much what we all thought as well, if we're being completely honest. But you've got to have a little bit of steel in your team when you're in the situation we're in, and we had a few spiteful moments, and we did the horrible stuff quite well. We threw ourselves to the floor, we broke up play when they did start getting some momentum, we stopped play, we were awkward. It was the kind of performance that it needed to be to push Arsenal. So what you didn't want to do was open up, go gung-ho, start flying your wing backs up, and you're 3 goals down in 15, 20 minutes, and it's a really bad afternoon. And there was bookies taking bets on 10-0, record goals.
Most of this podcast for doing that, I think.
Well, yeah, and it's it's quite disrespectful, but at the same time, your players probably get wind of that, and they had a little bit of 2 fingers up to everyone that they wanted to put on a bit of a performance. The frustrating thing for me is both goals again are very avoidable. Firstly, from an officiating point of view, because Saka's offside for the corner. So if the liner puts his flag up, we don't see that first goal. Because
he interferes with play, doesn't he? I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because regardless of what anyone says, yeah, he didn't touch the ball, but he's interfering with play. He's forced the player into an error to do that. I think the other way around, he's flagging for that. I just don't understand, because, yeah, you don't have to touch the ball to be interfering with play. And for me, I don't understand how it happened.
Yeah, Totti doesn't head it if he hasn't got a player coming in close to him. He's in the close proximity that he forces him to do something. So for me, that's interfering with play. But even when you get the corner, you've got to, I think from Johnston's point of view, you've got to do better with that. It doesn't land right in that postage stamp, does it? It lands kind of a foot maybe down from the corner. It's the post and it's on the back of the head. So I do think he should have done a little bit better with that. And then with the winner as well, Fer Lopez, for me, he's got to get out and try and stop that cross. He backs off Saka. He doesn't make it difficult for him, allows him to cut back onto his left foot and swing the ball in, and you know how dangerous that can be. I don't blame Mosquera at all for that one, because I think he's expecting Jesus to head it. He misses it, whacks him on the head. It could go anywhere, but it flies into the back of the net. That's the kind of luck you get, and you can't legislate for that. But I think if you stop it at source, and both of those occasions, you give yourself a chance. And when you've got 2 minutes left of the game, and you've just got yourself back into it, I wanted us back in those regimented lines that we were playing in. I know you're chasing it, you want to go and win the game, but that could be your foothold in the season. If you come away from the Emirates with a point, we all go into Brentford thinking we're going to turn these over. So I just wanted us to have a little bit more
naive. Intelligence
is the wrong word, but it was quite naive. That's probably the best description of it. We thought we could go and win the game at that point rather than take what we've got. But we should have done better for the deliveries for both of those balls into the box, unfortunately.
Is this a modern football thing, Nui? Because I remember when I was playing a long time ago, and even watching football, people would do everything they can to block the cross. Now, I don't know if it's just a Wolves thing, but there's so many, like Hwang the other night as well. I think, for that cross against Man United, I think there was a cross put in. There's no real desire to go and. I don't know if that's just a football thing, it's a Wolves thing. I don't know, but like Nocky said, then there's just so many goals conceded because someone's got an opportunity to put a great ball in, easy goal.
Yeah, and right now I think it's just a Wolves thing, to be completely honest. I think it's just one of those things where we're not chasing down the ball as much. I don't think sometimes the players are showing a level of effort that we kind of expect. So yeah, I think it is just a bit of a Wolves thing at the moment. But again, some shining lights in some of those performances. I don't know what Tolu's got to do for a start now, really. To be able to get them. Hopefully that will happen kind of next week. But yeah, just the overall feeling is gutted from last night. But we go again.
You think each week, Nocky, you can't get any more heartbroken when it comes to Wolverhampton Wanderers, and only Wolves could go to Arsenal, equalise in the last minute, and then concede 5 minutes later. I mean, I was there. I think I was there with Tyler actually and his lad when I think Hwang scored then, and we went a goal up, and they scored in about the 95th minute. Oh, and that coming out of there, they've had a couple of those now, and it really is painful. But let's try and find a couple of positives. I mean, it's difficult talking on the podcast, and there's no win for 7-8 months. It's hard, but let's talk about the impact of Mane and Tolu. For me, that's such a well-worked goal and something we've not really seen. We've seen somebody, a confident player, pick the ball up on the edge of the box, and he hasn't just tried to sort of chip it in. He's whipped that in. He's proper put something on that. The header is perfect. For me, you can't defend against that goal because it's an aggressive cross. It's not floated or drifted in. He's whipped that in, and Tolo's just I think it's almost gone straight down the middle, but it's such a good cross and a good header. We need to see more of that.
Yeah, it's something you get with youth, isn't it? They're just that exuberance. And the first thing he did when he come onto the pitch was pick the ball up and drive at one of the best centre halves in the Premier League. And all right, he lost the ball, but he had that confidence to have a little bit of a go at him and try and get at him. And the ball in's absolutely wonderful. It completely takes the Arsenal back line because of the angle he puts it in. You know, it's not from a particularly wide area. He's putting it in from almost a striking position. And you can't align for that. And the keeper can't align.
Zest, hasn't he, as well? He's proper whipped it in.
He's thumped it. It's almost a shot, and of course the keeper's going to come across because he's going to try and cover his far post. So he can't do anything about that when he makes the contact. But we're going to have to be careful with him. I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying he should come into the start now, and we should be playing him for the rest of the season. He's a very young man who's just finding his way in the team. So I think you can manage his minutes, but give him a few more, give him a little bit more opportunity now, because clearly there's a player there, but he's very, very raw. So we need to manage expectations, keep his development steady, but I do think he's in a position where there's an opportunity for more minutes for him now. But it was just nice to see a player come on, and one of the highlights of the whole game is probably the celebration from our perspective, because he was so excited. Yeah. He was so excited just to have got that assist and to have been part of it. And you know, he's tugging the shirt, he's pointing at the badge. Those are the kind of things that Wolves supporters want to see. You want something in this dark and dismal season that you can just grab hold of. And if it's a young lad coming through our academy, coming through our system, who cares about the badge, it gives you something to believe in again. So yeah, that was a wonderful moment. And obviously the way things are for us at the minute, we go and throw one in the other end. But it was a great sort of 2 or 3 minutes where you felt like you had something to cling on to again. So yeah, a quality goal. And it should have resulted in more, but it was a good moment.
We can't be greedy enough. We've enjoyed. Sorry,
I'm glad that the fans actually had something to.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we can't be greedy. We've had 4 minutes of fun enjoying football in the last 2 months, and that 4 minutes for last night from 90 to 94. But there we go.
But that's a great point, by the way, because that was a full away end on a Saturday night. For an Arsenal game, when you can't get home on the train, you're expected to lose comfortably 4 or 5-0, and you haven't won a game for nearly 8 months. That is incredible support, and it's they were loud all the way through. They were singing, they were backing the team, they backed them at the end as well, even though we've just lost it in the last minute. So I think full credit to the Wolves supporters for that. They're absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I think if you can see a plan, there's effort. I mean, against Man United, I think it was tactically naive. We tried to squeeze them. The press wasn't together. There was just so much spacing behind, and if Man United can't do one thing, and that's beat a low block. So we just opened the door up, and we clearly learnt our lesson against Arsenal. We looked together, we looked compact, we looked aggressive, and we made it very difficult for them. Yes, great teams find a way to win, but they had a lot of fortune. Were they better side? Of course they were, but Wolves give them a proper game of football, and I'm proud of that. One thing I've talked about recently, Nui, is in terms of responsibility. And I'm not talking about putting your tackles in or tracking your man. I'm talking about taking responsibility with the football. And again, with Mane, that happened last night, and it hasn't happened enough for me. I think there's been a lot of safe passing. I understand that, and confidence is a thing, but as Nocky said, that sort of that youthful fearlessness was clearly unshown. And for me, yes, it's a big step up from being a sub to starting. But for me now, the two guys that come on, the assist and the scorer, you've seriously got to be looking at them to be starting.
Yeah, I think that the main positive for me, not just with those two kind of coming on, was just the general passages of play, the giving and going, the movement, the passes, the shorter passes, as opposed to, so we've been seeing all season kind of these longer range passes that haven't necessarily been getting anywhere. We've been trying to go on the break and things. It just hasn't been working. But actually, some of those kind of triangle plays last night were really, really good, and that was kind of what led up to the equaliser for us. A lot of that,
little Arias knockdown, wasn't it, before he picked it up? But yeah, there was some nice spells of football which I wasn't expecting last night, and I wasn't expecting at Arsenal. Sorry, Noe.
Yeah, no, and I was just like I said and alluded to earlier on. I wonder whether Rui has had a bit of a say in kind of how we play and how we go about it, and kind of how our heads drop when we haven't got the ball, and that press when we haven't got the ball, and everything that's on there as well. I think we did that fairly well yesterday from the highlights that I've seen. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting now to see how we kind of push on. What I really, really don't want though is a positive performance followed by something like Man United, or a positive performance followed by Nottingham Forest. It's just, we need to just be a little bit more consistent now, and actually we need to take a lot of positives out of yesterday's result, even though again it's a loss.
It is a loss, Nocky, but again, I feel like we're repeating. I know you messaged me earlier on. You said, don't you dare start telling everyone we're going to beat Brentford. Well, I am, because I can't help myself, because I'm an idiot. We're going to get it right eventually. But there is that kind of feel to me. Yes, I know we're relegated, but I actually saw something that we can cling on to. Something, well, I know there's going to be a few changes. I think Mascara's suspended. I believe that Agbadu's going to the AFCON. So there'll have to be a few changes to that setup. But for me, that's what worked. We don't need to tweak it. Yes, Brentford aren't as good as Arsenal, but I watched the Brentford game today. You know what? They have a way better forward line than us, but they're a team that's vulnerable. So for me, you frustrate again. This is our plan now. You don't need to be tweaking it. Get a plan, get some consistency. Let's move forward with what we did at Arsenal.
I don't see that, though, to be honest. I don't think they'll set up that way against the Brentford side. They're set up in a way that there was absolutely no pressure on them to get any kind of positive result out of the game. It was purely about damage limitation. They wanted to keep the score down. They wanted to make sure that we were organised. We had a good rigid shape. We were able to get back into system when we did turn the ball over, and we had options on how we were going to break. Brentford aren't going to put us under the same kind of pressure. They're going to be almost happy with us to have the ball a little bit, especially in the wide areas. So Wolves going to have to show a little bit more in terms of attacking intent to try and almost bring Brentford out a little bit. So I don't see us playing that system again. For me, it's the Brentford game's a big worry, because I think the way they set up, the pace they've got with Ouattara is a massive problem for us, and they can play some decent football as well. I don't see Wolves setting up the same way. I think we'll try and be a little bit more attack-minded, a little bit more creative. The problem we've got at the moment is this massive pressure and fear factor at Molineux. They won't sit deep because they'll be scared about the reaction of the supporters. And you can almost see from 15 minutes we're sitting as deep as we were against Arsenal. You can almost feel that there's going to be that anxiety from the stands and that frustration and that clear annoyance that we're not kicking on and pushing forward. So I get what you're saying, but I don't think Wolves can or will set up like that against Brentford.
Well, they're going to be forced into something new, because obviously we've got a couple of defenders out, which is a shame, because I've actually thought Agbadu, not quite at the levels of last season, but there was a player that was finding himself again, more consistent, more dominant in his duels, confident, pinging those low drill passes. We're going to miss him. Yerson for me is a limited footballer, but he's everything that we've missed in that team. He's a proper Hauser king of it. And like I did a bit on 5 Live this morning, the Arsenal fan was complaining about Yerson, and it was delighted because of what he did to Jesus last year. So obviously he gets him under people's skin, and I'm all for that. And I like Yerson, and I think having that someone in the team, I don't want anyone to hurt anybody, but we want that bit of gnarl, that bit of zest in the team, because although we've had the sort of the Brazilian bulldogs in midfield, we've been a bit nice everywhere else.
Yeah, and I think it's good to see. I mean, like you said, I think limited football is probably the best term, the best way to describe Yerson Mosquera, but he is that player that gets in other players' heads, and he's probably there stamping on their toes and pushing them about all over the place. And we have lacked that. We have been a bit nice. So I think it's going to be interesting. And the other thing that we need to obviously consider is AFCON coming up in January as well. So we're going to need something back there as well. So yeah, going to be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go through the team. I mean, there's not a lot we've really learned. But what will be interesting for me next week is, does Matt Doherty go back into Yerson Mosquera's position? Because I think we've seen some of Matt Doherty's best football as a right centre back, Nocky, when we dropped him in. I think away at Leicester last year was his first game there. Played in the back three. I think you and Tyler were in the away end. We went 3-0. Correct me if I'm wrong. And you probably see Krejci going to where Agbadu plays. And I know sort of physically and pace-wise, we'll lose the sort of athleticism of Mosquera and Agbadu, but I don't really see it being much else from that. But otherwise, the balance of that team for me, you look at it on paper, it's a team you've got a centre-back in midfield and 2 holding midfielders. You should be restricting a team, really. You should be doing that. But as you said, Nui, as well, the opportunity to play those little triangles, and like you said as well, Nocky, to actually try and play some football, for whatever reason, for me, this is the best shape, and I'm going to do it, and their heads are going to fall off. But credit to Hwang, that's your best position. Hwang Chan, that's your best position. Out wide and coming back defensively, I think you're a liability in possession. But when you're playing down the middle, I think he probably should have done a little bit better when he was bursting through. But if you're going to play Hwang, you play through the middle. Is that fair?
I think so. I think you've been a bit harsh with Hwang in terms of the one-on-one, because he was a difficult angle. He'd run a hell of a long way, and he's got three top class centre halves
I think
steaming
he
in.
could push it in front of him, Nocky. I think he runs too much of a straight line. I think if he cuts the ball across towards the middle of the goal more, he puts them three out of sync and they clip him and it's a red card. I think he was a bit naive going in a straight line.
No, I'm not so sure. I think he wants to make sure he keeps that ball on his right foot because it's a stronger side. If he cuts inside, he's then on his left going up against potentially the best goalkeeper in the division. But it's horses for courses, isn't it? Whatever he did, he didn't work out in the end. What you did mention there, though, was Matt Doherty. I thought he was excellent yesterday. I thought he brought a real calm, strong element to the team, that real level of experience. And he was up against very good players. But I thought he was excellent. He was probably, in my opinion, I think he was our best player yesterday because of the level of control and composure he brought to the team. And he did work, the system worked really well. Doherty's not a wing back, we know that, not at his age now. I mean, under the Nuno era, he was absolutely fantastic. So I could see him dropping back in. I also don't think Santi Bueno did a great deal wrong to get dropped originally, so I wouldn't be too disappointed if he came back into it. Krejci, I'm still not sure whether he's best at centre-half or into midfield, to be honest, but he can play in both positions. So we have lost a couple of players. And I do think Agbadou, he's getting back towards something like his best. He was good yesterday. But I don't think it's a huge loss that they've gone. I do think we've got options that we can play in there now, and it gives us a little bit of a chance. But for me, Doherty absolutely keeps a shirt, whether it's as a wing-back or as a centre-half. I think he needs to keep in the team now because we're lacking that leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I'm not sure it's more attacking, but in terms of having a bit more pace against Brentford in that right wing back position, that actually might naturally suit us. Whereas if you've got a Chachwa in there, granted he's not been great, but having that bit of pace that we use so well away at Villa against the Brentford team, I think that might actually suit us. So I'd imagine Ladislav sort of slots in, and so does Matt Doherty. Let's move away from the 2-1 defeat at Arsenal. If I can remember how to take this graphic off the screen, otherwise I'll be stuck looking at it all night. There we go. But this is episode 148 of the Wolves Report. Mark, Knock, Nui, and myself, Ryan Lester. Now, this is something I've been looking forward to. So, Nui, let's show this kit off. Now, in the week, by the way, it's a concept kit. It's not a kit yet, maybe. Who knows? But this is a few of us had a conversation. There were some talkers in the group and there's some real talent in the group, Nui. But we got together, we sort of released this as a concept, and it's fair to say, I think it's in six figures, the views on across various platforms. What a shirt that is.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And just to be really clear with everyone, I'm definitely one of the talkers in the group. I'm not the talent. But
me too. The talent's watching.
Yeah, absolutely. The talent is watching. It's unbelievable. We kind of gave the guys an idea, and Alex and Nathan that have kind of come up with this and designed it are incredible. Wolves fans as well, through and through, go to each game. They're part of OGP from the very, very start. So, to be able to come up with this idea, Ryan, and then be able to come out with something like this, is just incredible. And I think it ticks a lot of the boxes for what we've wanted as a Wolves kit for a long, long time. And I think it absolutely does justice for the 150th anniversary shirt. And, some of the comments that are coming in and that we've seen over socials all weekend have just been kind of paying homage to that and paying tribute to that as well. So, yeah, very, very proud of this, and I'd absolutely love to see it produced.
Nocky, could we mark you down for a pre-order for a couple if ever it comes real?
I've always much preferred that badge on the shirt. I've always thought that's the badge we should have. It's a brilliant kit. It takes me back to the old days when we first started watching the club, when my dad was watching the club, and some of those wonderful moments we've had. It's incredible. But for me, the badge is the biggest thing on that. And as much as I like the wolf head, there's just something about the coat of arms with the motto across the bottom that just screams Wolverhampton Wanderers and the individuality of our football club. So yeah, I'd definitely be all for that.
Yeah, I'm not really going to say too much, Nui, but let's just say we're having more conversations this week of what direction we could take this in, and I'm delighted to be. Again, I can say with Nui, I'm not one of the talents. Me and Nui are the mouths and the talent behind the scenes to produce something like this after sort of a few conversations and sharing things. Yeah, completely incredible. And as well, Nui, I'm going to say, but they've not even seen the best image yet.
No.
Honestly, this kit, I'm really excited about it. But let's see what happens.
Yeah, there's a lot of conversations, and you know what? We've had some really good offers and people that we wouldn't have necessarily kind of contacts that are in the world of being able to potentially create something like this. We've got a lot of conversations to have, and we've got to obviously do our due diligence on what we think is going to be best. So yeah, more on that to come. But yeah, definitely there are conversations kind of ongoing. If we can produce it to this quality and to obviously do it justice, then we'll absolutely be looking to do that. But to Noki's point as well on the badge, it was on the first shirt that I had, when I first started going. It's always been really, really important to me. I've always been really, really proud of that logo and that crest. So I absolutely can't wait to see that back on a shirt.
Do you know what I really like about it? And it sounds really, really basic, but it's been taken. Although there is some really intricate, beautiful detail, the fact there's no sponsor, there's no branding, there's just a clean sort of a take from the sort of the 50s and the 70s, and with the stripes, and with the 80s, with the traditional city crest. Yeah, I love it. I got to be honest, I want to talk about it and just leave it there, but I've got other things to talk about. But yeah, Noki,
you could see a Derek Dugan in that, couldn't you?
Yeah.
Or players of that ilk, Wagstaff, people like that who really are the memories that our parents had. You can just see him running around in that shirt, and to see, you should put Totti Gomez in it for Tyler. That'd please him. But I think it's an incredible shirt. It'd be lovely if this was a shirt that could get produced. But obviously, I'll leave that to you. I'll just admire it for now.
Yeah, I mean, we've joked about it. I've left it on my PC, just looking at it. To be honest, it's absolutely wonderful. So yeah, credit to everybody, not the mouths, the magic behind the scenes. This is episode 148 of the Wolves Report with Nui, Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Lester. Should we leave it a little bit longer? We'll bring it back. We'll bring it back a little bit later on. Bringing us back down to reality. Earlier in the week, Jeff Shee, BBC WM, landed an exclusive interview with Jeff Shee. Now, before we go into this, I've got to say, and I think this is really important, I have hammered Jeff Shee a lot, and I will continue to do so, but I'm not going to criticise him for taking the interview. Do I think it was a PR disaster for Wolverhampton Wanderers? I don't think it could have gone any worse. Depending on who you talk to, some people may feel different. I think it's only proven what we've already known. However, I will credit someone that's prepared to step up and talk, even if I don't agree with anything they've said. So, do you know what? I won't criticise you doing it, but I will criticise for what you said. So anyway, let's bring a couple of examples up of the things that were said on BBC WM. Also, credit to Mike Taylor, by the way, on BBC WM, who's been on this show. I thought he handled that interview fantastic. Well, he's a professional journalist, of course. I thought it was a great interview. I know some people would have said, "Oh, I want this harder," or "I want that harder." Well, he's not going to come back for more if you absolutely batter him. You've got to find the right line, and I think Mike was fantastic. But anyway, Noki, just before we start running through some of these that I've clipped, what was your take on Thursday evening's interview with Jeff Shee?
I echo what you said about Mike Taylor. He's one of the most articulate, intelligent people that we've certainly ever had on this podcast. So he's probably the best man to.
That's what we can only afford him twice a year.
That's it. I think what it showed is that the protest worked, because that interview for me doesn't happen unless he feels that pressure. And the protest was in the right way. It was delivered correctly. No one got hurt. People were involved or they weren't involved, but there was no criticism either way. And it's kind of forced him in a position now where he's had to come out and speak. It was a little bit of a car crash. I think there was a few language issues on there for me, and some really confusing areas around what the Steve Ball stand's going to look like, whether I'm going to be riding a roller coaster to my seat or walking.
If you get a free shirt if I see you on that roller coaster.
But it's hard to. It's a difficult one to unpick, because I'm not sure Jeff fully understands himself. Some of the things that he was saying. I mean, that comment you've got on there now is that the relationship between us is not as good as it was in 2018, but it's also not as bad. The fans have been hammering him. They've been Jeff out signs up for quite a while now, and that was shown in the protest. So I don't know if he's truly believes what he's saying. Fair play to him for taking the interview, but I don't think he had a choice based on the protest. But I just don't trust the guy. I don't trust what he says. So it's very difficult to believe him in this kind of scenario. But yeah, the relationship's poor, and it's a lot worse than he thinks it is if that statement's true.
This is it, Nui. again, I mean, I know you aren't shy in coming forward and talking about these things. I don't think there's a few, or there's a lot of people that are really upset about the situation. Are these the words of somebody that he's brushing it off, or are these just the words of somebody that doesn't understand? But also think it isn't that bad. I don't understand how he could possibly think that when there was a couple of thousand people outside the Billy Wright before the Man United game. Thousands of people, I don't know, didn't take their seats 15 minutes into the game. Is it delusional? Is he telling us what he wants to think, or does he actually believe it? I genuinely don't know.
I have to think that it's delusion, to be completely honest, or that he's just telling himself that it's not as bad as it is, because it is terrible. And I don't know, there's national media picking up on the relationship between the fans and Jeff Shee. It's not us all just going mad, or it's not, it's not just him thinking that everything is actually rosy. People are picking up on this relationship, and they're seeing what it is. I mean, like the Nocky mentioned, obviously the language barrier. I kind of get that. But I mean, let's be honest, this isn't the first time that he's kind of said something that's left us scratching our heads. When he mentioned the Wolves might not be the club for you if you're after trophies, this here, and the other comment where he said he's got empathy for some of the fans.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I didn't like that at all. He's probably talking about me and you, but that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, there's no need for the some in there. Like, you have empathy for fans or you don't. It's as simple as that. So I think he's acutely aware. I think he's cleverer than he comes across. But I think that the way that he's actually tried to go about dumbing down the relationship, or the relationship being as bad, is just terrible. And the PR disaster, I think stating it as a PR disaster is being quite polite, to be completely honest.
We're a polite show, aren't we, Nocky? We're a reasonably polite show until it's prediction time. But yeah. This is, for me, this is just such a concern. Now, those looking outside in, and I think there's some good questions on this as well later on, will be thinking, oh, well, you've had some good times and this and that, and you've done this. It's football happens in cycles. It absolutely does happen. This isn't, but people need to realise this isn't just about being a poor football team now that's been absolutely horrendous at the bottom of the table. This runs way deeper. And I don't think people outside of Wolves hear this enough. This is a historical problem when what it feels like there's been, like I said, an incremental decline for the last 5 or 6 years, where the squad has gradually got worse from not being able to recruit the level of player. There's the esports stuff, which Jeff said now they work as 2 separate entities. So the Wolves aren't going to get any money from esports. Yet an ex-Wolves employee said in the Express and Star, I was doing some research today, I think 2 years ago, this will be extra commercial for Wolves to help fill that. So what's changed? So now you're using our glorious badge to promote your esports, but now they're 2 separate businesses. Well, if that's the case, then why are you hammering our Twitter all the time? Why don't you use your own one? What is it? Because for me, Nocky, it just doesn't make any sense. You're saying they're 2 separate businesses, but you want to keep, what is it?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of concerns raised about esports and whether it's almost more important to Jeff and Fosun than the football club is, because they need the badge more than they need us. I just think a lot of what he said, he's confused, and he's put himself in a box on a few things as well. I mean, he's spoken about if we go down, there wouldn't be a need for job cuts. There's always job cuts when you get relegated. There's always people lose their jobs as a result of it. But he's kind of said that's not going to happen. He's also kind of hinted that it'll only be a 1-season relegation, which makes you think you're going to throw money at it. And we know that's probably not going to happen either. So I get why he did the interview, and I think he had to do the interview. But whoever advised him on some of the answers or some of those questions that were fired at him that he didn't understand, it was just so poor. It was such a poor response. And he left us probably with more questions than answers. And he's left a lot of statements out there about how we should be really excited about next season. It's going to be a fantastic season for us. So it's just a mess from top to bottom. And he has got no relationship with the football club. The fans don't like him. It'd be interesting to know what the players think of him, even though they couldn't come out and tell us. But he's just one of those guys who just feels like he lives in his own bubble, and he's very deluded in the stuff that he comes out with and the stuff that he says. But he's committed to some stuff on the back of this interview now, so it'll be very interesting when we do get relegated to see if he sticks to that or whether he breaks more promises.
But let's be honest. He's sorry, Ryan. It's not the first time that he's told us something and failed to deliver on it. I don't think he holds himself to account on some of the things that he actually says, and then thinks that we're going to be able to remember everything that was said. There was a couple of other comments about the self-sustaining model. It was only last year that he was talking about, if a club isn't self-sustaining, then that's the time that you either go bankrupt or the owners are looking to sell. So which is it again, Jeff? Like, make your mind up on what you want to do here. There's the comment, I'm sure Ryan's going to bring it up, around relegation isn't serious and it's a technical term. At the time listening to that, jaw on the floor, just how naive is that to be able to say something like that? That's not a language barrier right there. He knows what he's saying, and for him to say that it's a technical term or a misconception from fans is just well out of order for me.
Sorry, that's my header tonight. I know it's very small there in terms of that, but it's staggering. Like, is that actually, has the mass slipped and he couldn't care less now because we've got the esports, we've got the other businesses, we've got Sudo, we're up and running, thanks very much. We've had our money 20% via guest defeat, thanks very much. Is the mass slip there, or does he genuinely? Because we did a show earlier in the week together, Noe, but we talked a little bit about this then. But the fact that he's so casual, is he just trying to be like, yeah, it'll be okay, don't worry? Do you know what? I need you to acknowledge it's a problem. I need you to look a little bit concerned. I need some passion in your voice. Just saying it all in one tone, right, is quite remarkable. One thing as well, I think you picked up on there, you said, Nocky, in terms of those advising him before. Now, I'm sure, Noe or Nocky, that he had some advice before. I'm sure he did. I'm sure there was briefings. They're not going to just send someone in to do this without anything. What I would question, though, is Jeff's not been listening to anybody for 10 years. So why is he going to start listening now? Because I can't imagine anyone senior at Wolves working around him has gone, well, that went really well, that did.
I think the one thing for me, and I think, this is just my opinion, and this is me kind of talking out loud and thinking about what it could be. But if you think about all of the internal promotions, if you like, that have kind of happened, I think that he's quickly run out of people that would advise or would say, I don't necessarily think that's the best idea. If they say that, then they're probably out, because he doesn't want to be working with them. Whereas now, the Matt Jackson appointment for me is a bit of a weird one. He just feels like he's, honestly, there's no real polite way to say this. He feels like he's a lapdog. Like he's a lapdog to Jeff. Some of the stuff that he was saying in the interview was just like, who are you trying to convince here that, like when Matt Jackson's comment around, Jeff's not shying away from the abuse and, from the opinions of fans because he's there at every game. Well done. That's his job. Like, he's executive chairman of Wolverhampton Wanderers. He should be at every game.
Home and away, every game. That's your job.
Yeah, that's your job, and you're paid handsomely for it as well, Jeff. Needless to remind you, you're paid very, very well for that job. So yeah, I think it's more the fact that he's actually run out of people in the club that have been brave enough to say to him, "No, I don't think that's the right thing to do." And Jeff's like, "Okay, well, off you go." And he has yes men that are in there to do the job. We're acutely aware of conversations with people that work at the club, and I've got some really good friends and really good people that work at the club as well. They are scared for relegation, and that's the last thing that we want. It's the last thing that anybody wants. So for him to just brazenly come out and say that there won't be job losses I feel like it's going to come back to haunt him if he's still in the role.
Yeah, Nocky, just on this. Well, I'll move on to a few more things that you said, Nocky, but to make a commitment, not an internal on something that could be deleted or whatever, on BBC local radio in an interview, to laugh it off, there'll be no job losses. Now, from what I understand, I'm not sure Wolves have a full quota of staff anyway. I think the butter is quite thinly spread across the loaf. So I feel like they need more staff anyway. But to make that kind of commitment, Nocky, you've basically made a statement to all of your staff at Wolverhampton Wanderers, your job is safe. Now, when your money's halved or even less next year, where are you going to go from there? Because as Nui said, I think this is only going to end even worse.
It's a very dangerous statement to make that everybody's going to be safe, because that just doesn't happen in relegation. And I think Jeff he doesn't realise how important the football club is to the supporters. I don't think he's ever managed to fully grip that. And we remember what things are said. And I remember him coming in and telling us we were going to be bigger than Manchester City. And when you set the bar that high and you don't manage expectations in the right way, that's always going to come back to haunt you. And it's still coming back to him now, 9-10 years on. So when you make a statement like that, fans aren't stupid. Fans know what's going on. They understand the risk behind relegation. As Wolves supporters, we've seen enough relegations to know the price that we pay for that. So for him to come out and make a statement like that, and that there's no science behind that statement. He's just blurted that out in the interview. He hasn't done any research.
Could you imagine Matt Jackson, whoever else was in their face when he said that?
Yeah, because he's not. There's no statistics behind it to back up why there won't be job losses. It wasn't we won't have job losses because of X, Y, and Z. It was we're in a good financial position. We won't have job losses. So that's absolute rubbish. You've got a £90 million loan you've got to pay for. You've got the loss in revenue from TV sales. You're going to lose your best players at a reduced price, and you've got to put enough of a squad together that you're going to have to invest in just to make us have an 11 for the first game of the season. So there's going to be a massive drop in revenue at this football club, and your esports is going to take a hit on the back of it because Wolves aren't going to be quite as popular or as important as they were. You're going to lose that foreign revenue as well because people aren't going to wake up at 7-8 o'clock in the morning to watch Wolves play Portsmouth on a Tuesday, are they? They're just not going to do it. So there is going to be a huge drop. And for him to make the statements he's made, and he felt to me like he was kind of trying to deflect every question away and not answer it the way that would put him at any kind of risk. Essentially, he wasn't being honest with his answers, is how it felt to me. I may be completely wrong. But that came out very much as, oh, yeah, we'll be fine, don't worry about it. But you've committed to that now. That's a very, very dangerous and bold statement to make. And if he doesn't follow that through, it's even more evidence that you can't trust the guy.
Yeah, it's a concern. No, I mean, it is another one again. I feel the frustration from the fans. I hope they can be more happy and the people in Wolverhampton can be more happy. We have been in the past. In the meantime, I have my own way to run the club and to make the club grow. Now, no offence, Jeff, your own way over the last 5 years has saw Wolves do like 15th, 14th, 10th, 12th, 15th, and here we are now, or something like that. And here we are now. So the trust is gone, Nui. I don't see how Jeff Shee recovers this. Again, I respect him fronting up. I respect anyone that fronts up to have their say. That can't have been easy. Would I have preferred it to be live? Yeah, he's not going to do that. Would I have preferred it to be with everyone on the sort of the alliance group? Everyone gets about 10 questions each. I'd have loved it. He's never going to face those kind of questions, but might be fantastic in terms of I suppose we would have probably been a bit more raw and he'd have walked off. But yeah, it's a massive concern for me because I do not see any way back now in terms of how the fan base can get back on board with Jeff Shee.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing that we've been pushing for a while. The fact that he's met with potentially fans that I say potentially, he's picked the people that he wants to talk to. And you can't pick and choose who you want to go out to. But I think that more openly, and if Jeff does listen to this, it's not a case of that we want to go in there and we want to just shout a load of abuse at you. There's educated questions that we want to ask around.
What's the plan? Who are we? Where are we going?
What's the reset? What that you've spoken about? What is the plan for the stadium? What's the plan for the academy? Really drill into those details. And obviously, I appreciate that those ones there are not necessarily the educated questions that we want to ask. But there's a lot more thinking behind where we want to go with it. And so what I would say is that if Jeff is open to it, then I'd absolutely love to have that opportunity to speak to him about it and to potentially get some of that that kind of trust rebuilt, if you like. My concern is though that no matter what he says now, firstly, I'm going to struggle to believe it because he's broken those promises in the past, and secondly, whether it's actually ever going to happen. So, and thirdly, I think the trust has gone with a lot of the fan groups and for fans around the world, really, with him. The other really interesting point that I just wanted to make though as well is one of the other comments that he made is that the club has a ceiling. Now, I appreciate that, potentially there are clubs that have ceilings, but as an executive chairman or a
You don't
business
say that
owner,
about your business.
no, as a business owner, you don't come out and say that, yeah, you know what, this is our target and we're just going to go for that. And like, if we hit it, yeah, great. If we don't, then yeah, whatever. But actually, corporate has no ceiling. So are you just telling us that you just want to create more corporate areas? Because there's one thing that you need to know, Jeff. You're not going to get as much corporate in the Championship. I can assure you that. You're not going to get the day trippers that are going to want to come down to Molineux and spend £1,000 on a ticket, and they're going to spend 80 quid on a shirt with Sudo all over it.
Depending what shirt it is, not newer.
Well, yeah, actually, yeah. Well, that wouldn't be from the club shop anyway. So, yeah, there's a lot that he's got to do, and I don't see any way back out of this. To be honest, for Jeff Shee. So you know, you want to come out and talk to us, then come out and talk to us. But ultimately, I think it's time for you to go, mate.
Yeah, he's not talking about you, Nocky. I still want you. What, Nocky? Is Nui and I being harsh here, or is there no way back? Is there any way you can recover this, or like I said, because for me personally now, I think we're past the point of no return. I think we were there ages ago, but I think this interview's only made it worse. I mean, like you said, in terms of the comments, in terms of your ambition, supporting your club, winning trophies, Europe, all that kind of stuff, it's all added up now. And now he's the big dog at the top, and he's overseen Wolverhampton Wanderers on a couple of points going into the Christmas period as potentially the worst Premier League team ever. I can't accept it. I can't forgive it. And for me, the trust has gone.
It's difficult to see how he comes back, but football's a very fickle mistress, isn't it? So if we go into the Championship and we win our first 7 or 8 games and we're top of the league and we have a good season, no one's really going to talk about Jeff Shee. We still won't trust him. We still won't want him in the role, but the noise will subside slightly because we're having a good season. It's always going to be driven by your results. It's always going to be driven by what you're achieving on the pitch. And it's come more to the fore now because of the situation we're in. But this has been incrementally worse year on year for the past few seasons. We've been circling the drain and we've not felt the need to protest. We've not felt the need to really complain because we've achieved what essentially our goal is to stay in the league. It's only this season we've really realised how bad we are. So I don't think we'd ever trust the guy again. I don't think we'd ever want him to stay in the role. I don't think there's many Wolves fans that would. But if we do go down and then we start winning games next season, I do think the noise will probably subside slightly, but the trust will never return.
I mean, it's a great point, Nocky, in terms of obviously when things are going well, people lose focus on those things. I remember the first year under Jeff and Fosun, and we were a lot closer to the relegation zone than we were in the playoffs. There was sporadic recruitment, some Paul Gladden stuff going on. There was all kinds of chaos going on with some random signings. Walter Zenga, don't get me wrong, Walter was fun. It was chaos, but it was fun, right? The only reason Wolves went up is because they had a great relationship with Mendes, Nuno, Jota, Neves, that Cavallero, Costa. That was the core. We are a million miles off that team now. So it's not about, for me, it's not just about building the trust. It's trusting him to put together any kind of team that can get us promoted again. I don't trust him to do that.
The other concern for me is how nonchalant he is about us, going down. Because you mentioned the obviously the quality of the squad. We're 2 points in the Premier League at the moment, in case anybody needs reminding of that. The thought of a double dip is huge, because who's going to want to necessarily come to us? All right, you get a bit of money for being relegated and things like that, and there might be more money for us to spend. But the actual concern around the players that we're going to lose versus players that we're going to get in, because we've proven that we can't get quality in to replace quality. Not that there's much quality left in the current squad, but you get where I'm going with that. The thought of a double dip, relegation again is definitely a concern. You're on mute, right?
There we go. Sorry, I was trying to talk to my dog, snoring. Yeah. So the final slide I'm going to do is is what Jeff said here. The final purpose is to make the club doing well in the near future and the long term future. I think fans will understand, and we can work together. Nocky, I feel like someone's playing a practical joke, and you're all going to like come out in a minute with like clown masks on and laugh at me because I'm like, I am in is it the Truman Show? That's what I feel like. I'm in the Molyneux Truman Show, and I cannot believe the things that are being said.
Oh, he spoke about wanting us to be a established Premier League team, and I think after 8 years, we probably should have been able to class ourselves as that already. It's just such a bizarre statement. There's so many strange statements from him. And the near future and the long-term future. Well, the near future, for me, is after Christmas, and I certainly don't think we're going to have any success in that period. And I agree with Nui entirely. I think there's a huge risk of a double dip because of the situation we're in. And we spoke last week, Ryan, about the risk that Rob Edwards doesn't make it to the Championship, because if results keep going away from us, they will pull the trigger. You can just see that state of chaos and carnage that we felt so many times before under Fosun returning to us now. So it's a very strange statement to make. The long-term future is, of course, to make sure that we're financially viable and that there's still a Wolverhampton Wanderers. But you want that Wolverhampton Wanderers to be as competitive and as high up the leagues as it can possibly be. Being financially stable and competitive in League One or in the Championship isn't what we want now. We want this team to kick on and do better. And in terms of revenue for Jeff and the club, that's where he should want to be as well. I just don't think his ambitions are anywhere near matching what we want. And I don't think our ambitions are unrealistic. I'm not talking about Wolves winning the Premier League or qualifying for the Champions League. I'd just like us to be competitive in the league that we're in. And if that means every so often we have a decent cup run and maybe we threaten Europe every now and then, I think we'd all probably accept that. But at the moment, there's this overriding emotion that the only thing Wolves should try and do year in, year out is stay in the division. And to do that, you're relying on the three teams who've come up, which for me is absolutely terrible from a business point of view, because you only need a Sunderland, as they've done this season, and you end up with a bloody nose, don't you? So there's so many things wrong. There's so many things they need to look at and rebuild. The near future for me is trying to make us sustainable, competitive, and try to break Derby's record. That's about the only thing I can see in the near future that's a capability for us at the moment.
It's a sad state of affairs, and I'm surprised Jeff knows about Derby because, hey, Wolverhampton Wanderers didn't exist before Fosun came in. I mean, we didn't have league titles, FA Cups, League Cups. We weren't the founding fathers of European football or anything like that. It only happened when Fosun came along. This is episode 148 of the Wolves Report with Nui, Mark Knock, and myself, Ryan Lester. We've talked about the kit. We talked about the game. Hey, look at this again. Look at that. I'm just going to keep looking at it. It's absolutely tremendous. Let's move on to some questions. I had a couple of good questions this week. And I'll never duck away from any of them. So hopefully, if I can get my questions working, I can't get anything working tonight. So nice, easy one to start with. We mentioned this earlier on. Carl White says, do you think Rui Pedro Silva coming to the Wolves will make a difference? Well, I think one of you two suggested earlier on that Wolves already looked a more solid, organised. Now, let's not forget this guy was sort of big in the back room when Nuno was here for our most successful days in our lifetime. So for me, yeah, I think it will make a difference. I think this is a smart move. That someone that knows the club, that sort of he's aware of Wolverhampton Wanderers. So for me, if he was available, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah, I completely agree. But just as a reminder, Rui Pedro Silva was part of Nuno's lucky Wolverhampton Wanderers. So yeah, we need to bear that in mind as well. Yeah, I mean, I like I said earlier on in the chat, I think that he's already made a difference. I think we're making tactically making better decisions with some of those triangles in. I think it's going to be interesting to see that kind of methodology that he's going to bring in and thinking behind everything. But so far, so good. The one bit that I want to see is another positive performance against Brentford, not the consistency that we've been showing so far.
Well, two of the games under Rob Nui, the Villa away, particularly the first half, and yesterday, I guess no pressure games because you're expecting to lose, but we actually had an identity. There seemed to be a plan and a shape, and there was a bit of needle. And I was like, hello, we're going to get relegated. We've got our team back, and that felt good. So yeah, Carl, thank you for being part of the latest Wolves report. This is a really interesting question. I thought we were about to cover it. Graham KW says, is mob rule taking over the fan base? I think this is a great question, Nocky, to ask. Now, obviously this podcast, Nui, and there's a whole group of us that sort of talk. Obviously there's the protest. I don't know who started that, all that kind of stuff going on. I wouldn't call that a mob rule. I'd call that a bunch of various fan groups that do their own thing that have come together because they're really concerned about the immediate and long-term future of their football club. Could it be seen as mob rule? I think it's a fair question to ask it, and I don't mind it being asked, but I don't see it like that at all, Knocker. I see this as a group of fans that love their football team with a passion, and it's an extended part of all our families. I know, Knocker, you go with your dad and your lad. I take my mom. I know, Nui, you go with your family. We love our football team, and Wolverhampton Wanderers is an extended part of our family, and you're not treating them very well. So that's why we've come together, and we want to make some noise about it, Knocker.
I don't see it as mob rule. I'll be interested to know in what context we're using the phrase mob rule. I think it's some fans who've got a platform and an ability to share a voice and make themselves heard, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that at all. There was certainly no conversations from anyone involved in it forcing people to do it or criticising anybody who didn't. It was a case of, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're suggesting, please feel free to jump in if you want to be a part of it. That's how I read it. So no, I certainly don't think it's mob rule. I think you need a voice in this circumstance. What you don't want to do is sit back quiet and relax while your club disappears into an oblivion. It's not as if these, the protests were about going and throwing rocks through the Billy Wright windows or petrol bombing cars or destroying.
Just for the record, we don't recommend any of that. Just make it really clear.
But that was never the point, was it? The whole point was we just want to have a bit of a voice because you've tried a letter. The letter didn't work. No one came back on that. So now the next stage is we want to be vocal, but we want to do it in a way that nobody gets hurt, and it's just a respectful protest, which is how I read it. So I certainly don't think it's mob rule. I think it's people who've got the platform to raise a voice for other people who are trying to do that piece. And if you don't want to be involved in it, don't be involved in it. There's no pressure on you.
I think there's two things to it for me, and again, I don't. Again, I'd like to know the context behind what mob rule means in this instance, but I think that Wolves fans have potentially lost a lot of the really loud voices that would have been in the stadium, due to another reason of being priced out, and the kind of working man's price for football has gone in the last kind of few years, and Fosun definitely haven't helped with that in benchmarking against some of the better teams in the league when we've been finishing in the bottom part of the league. So that's one thing for me. I think we've come together to kind of help elevate those voices that we've potentially lost, for whatever reason. And then I think the second thing is the point that Ryan made. This is our family. I'm behind my actual family. The Wolves are a very, very very close second to that as well. So, I don't want to see things being run in the wrong way. I don't think that we've been run in the right way for a long, long time now. I don't think there's a plan. I don't think there's a goal. So come out and show us. Otherwise, we'll keep stomping our feet.
Absolutely. Graham, I hope that answers the question. I'm happy to agree or disagree, but I won't duck any questions on there. Great
I
stuff.
think just the last thing for me on that one, I'll be interested from Graham's perspective, because I respect the fact he's asked the question. Does he think Jeff Shee would have spoken to WM without the protest? Would be a question that I'd ask to anybody.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Let's keep making some noise. Graham, thank you for being part of the Wolves Report. Now, this is an interesting question. I can't give you any answers in the detail because we might not have any, or we haven't decided. But equally, Bridget asks, protests, are there any plans for Brentford? I'm glad that you've asked, but I think it would be foolish to divulge if there was a particular game that we were going to do a particular thing that we were planning on. But rest assured, there are conversations happening all over the place. And as Nui said, I certainly intend on supporting sensible, fair ways of showing how disgruntled we are at how our football club is operating. Could you add any more to that, Nui?
No, I think that's fair. Obviously, we have to be cautious with the audience and everyone that can listen into this. But that's not to say that we're planning something that's going to, cause any safety issues or anything like that. The whole thing is down to individual choice, same as it was for the 15-minute boycott. And the chances are that it will be something similar to that again. So, we've got lots of plans and there's lots of ideas and there's lots of conversations that are ongoing. And as soon as we have decided on what we think is best, the same as we did and we said about the 15-minute boycott, we'll get it out to you. And one other thing on that, just really, really quickly, is it doesn't take much in terms of time to be able to let you guys know what we want to do. The 15-minute boycott was mentioned on a Friday, and the game was on the Monday, and it was very, very successful. So yeah, bear with us. Let us think about what the best and the loudest thing is going to be. That's going to tick a lot of boxes, and we'll let you know.
Absolutely. Bridget, thank you for being part of the latest Wolves report, and Noki Nui, thank you for your answers as well. I think this question's for me, and won't duck away. Walter says, Ryan, why do you another scapegoat Hwang? 33 goals and assists in 4 years, injured for half that, negative, also played in some poor teams. He makes intelligent runs, strong on the ball, and he's a good finisher. It's a fair question. However, and I'll stand up and say to anybody, for the last 2 years, Hwang has regressed massively, and some games he's been nothing short of abysmal. Do I agree that he makes intelligent runs? Yeah, I think he does. But when he's played on the left and he tracks back, he's in possession, he's a liability. He doesn't seem to close a cross down. He came on against Crystal Palace, give the ball away, they've scored. I think that was Hwang, wasn't it, Noki? In that one, to give the ball away there, yeah. So for me, I think Wolves and Jeff made a huge. I think they turned down about £20 million for Hwang 2 summers ago. I just think that's crazy for someone that had. He had little spells. He's done okay, but that purple patch 2 years ago, I think he scored a brace at Brentford when we won 4-1. Maybe there was that time of year before he went to the Asia Cup. He had a real good spell, but his numbers, he'd almost scored like 7 goals in 8 shots. Messi doesn't do that. It's not sustainable because it shows you're not having very many shots. So basically, he converted every chance over the festive period. Do I think there is a fox in the box there that could play in the system we played last night? Yes. Do I want Hwang tracking back in his own half, losing his man, giving the ball away? No. For me, he's someone that plays off the forward, down the middle, and nowhere else. Noki.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's been absolutely terrible for the last 2 seasons. He has spells and he has purple patches where he looks like he's a decent player, but they're always very, very short-term things. There'll be 5 or 6 games where he looks effective, but realistically, if he doesn't score goals, he doesn't really contribute much to the team. But saying that, we've all said how well we thought he played this week. So if you put the performances in, I think you'll get the credit for it. But all in all, he's been very poor. And I think if Wolves have a fully fit squad and fully available squad, I don't think many people pick Hwang to start in that team.
No. Nui?
Same. Yeah, not much more I can add to that, to be honest.
Walter, thank you for being part of the Wolves report again. I don't mind if you disagree. That's just my take on him. I think there's a player that got rewarded with a juicy new contract, and I don't think we've seen the player that we've seen 2 years ago for a long, long time, and I expect more. But thank you for being part of the latest Wolves report. I probably should have done this next bit in the match, but I'm going to bring it up now. Mikey says, how did Eze not get a red card for this? Now, I've got a still somewhere here. Let's have a little look at that. Now, if you're a Wolves player...
Never. Never a red card. Come on, son. That's a still, but that's still there. He could be pelting in at 50 mile an hour trying to take his head off. He's just swinging his foot trying to get the ball. I'd have been raging if that's a red card. And if you want to give that as a red card, you can also look at how Hwang didn't get sent off for his tackle if you want to balance it out.
I was still Hwang make a tackle, mate. I was happy.
Neither of them are red cards for me. I think you've all gone soft if you think that's a red card.
Well, in Nockeyville from 85, to 95, where you could assault people and not get booked, yes. In modern football, we've had players sent off for that. Regardless, it's a high foot and you're not allowed to do that in football. Do I think it's a red card personally? I mean, did he even get booked for it?
Just got a foul. He's going for the ball. His eyes were on the ball. It's not a red card. Yeah. I'd have been furious if that was given against Wolves.
Yeah, I completely agree. The still's never going to do it justice either. I mean, that it looks like he's kung fu kicked him in that still.
Yeah.
But like when you watch it in real time, they're both going for the ball. There's no intent in there for Eze to take him out. I'm with Nocky on that. If you're getting a red card, then the game's gone. I think the game's gone in a lot of other ways. But
yeah. Mikey, thank you for being part of the latest Wolves report. I'm glad I got to use that still in the end. Probably should have done it during the match. Let's get a couple more questions. Here we go. This one's not for you here. Dave Butler says, top lad Kieran doing the great things at OGP. Absolutely. Thank you, Kieran, for coming on the show. Thank you, Dave, for being part of the Wolves report. Right then, on Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock, a rare 3 o'clock game, Wolverhampton Wanderers are hosting Brentford, who drew 1-1 with Leeds this afternoon. As I said earlier on, there is some defensive vulnerability stuff. Nocky said to me, I can't get excited after seeing a good performance, but I'm going to get excited because eventually, one day, Wolverhampton Wanderers are going to win a game of football. Now, Nocky, if Wolves play like they did at Arsenal and like they did at Villa, there's a very strong chance that Wolves could win a game of football on Saturday afternoon. Mark Knock.
Not if they're set up like that, they won't, because there was no intent to win the game. It was intent to stay solid and stay in it. I think we need to be a little bit more progressive. We need to try and get the ball forward. For me, it's very dependent on who he picks. If he picks Strand Larsen again, I think that kind of negates us in an attacking area. Because what you saw from Tolu when he came on was the desire to run in and to pull into the channels and to try and make it a physical challenge for the defenders. I don't think Strand Larsen does that. He also gets ahead of his defender, and he did it for the goal. Strand Larsen doesn't do that. So if he sticks with Strand Larsen in the team, then I don't think we get any joy against that Brentford back line, even though they are slightly vulnerable. It's going to be really interesting to see what team he picks for this, because does he keep Doherty where he is, or does he move him into the back three? I think he probably moves him into the back three for the reasons we've already discussed. The midfield, you've got to go with Gomez and Andre again, because why wouldn't you? It worked relatively well, but then what do you do with Krejci? Is he going in midfield or at the back? He's got some big decisions to make, but I think for me the game is going to be won or lost by what he does up front. If he sticks with Strand Larsen, I don't think we affect the game the way we need to. And they've got some good players as well. Django Ouattara is a really good player, very quick. They've got good footballing players in midfield. They can pick passes. They're very intricate. They remind me of the Swansea team from going back a bit now. Weren't overly full of superstars, but everybody knew their job and were effective. And I think that's how they play. They knock the ball around really well. They don't panic and they look for space. So it's a very difficult game. I know they drew with Leeds. The Leeds team that come and pummeled us at Molineux, but I think they're a team that we need to be careful of because they're a good player.
Wise Wolf tells us that Dango Ouattara is off to the AFCON, so not available. Bonus, Nocky.
I'll forget everything I've just said. Then we're going to win 3-0.
Get in there, Nocky. On to Tolu, Nui. Yeah. I don't know how he's not started before. I had a gut feeling that I don't know if the club were under the impression that he was going to go to AFCON. And this is why they were persisting with Strand Larsen, because he was going to be our man throughout the Christmas period when he was the only player. But now he's not there. Now Tolu's going to be there, and he scored a fantastic header. For me, he has to start now. I think Strand Larsen, his little strops. Yes, you know what? It's not nice if someone's jeering or stuff. But again, like with Cunha, you've had your juicy contract, right? You had your little strop, and here we are again now. So you need to start playing better, or accept that you're not going to be in the team. If people are going to do ironic jeers when you come off the pitch and you've been diabolical for most of the season, I'm afraid you're going to have to suck it up. But for me, Tolu has to come into the team.
Yeah, I think for me, Strand Larsen's showing the wrong type of attitude. Like, it's fine to be annoyed, at things that are coming off. But this isn't the first time that he's, had an issue with Wolves fans. When he was taken off at Man United and everybody cheered, honestly, some of the words that came out of my mouth from the South Bank when he turned around and looked at us to kind of give, like it was our fault that he hadn't done anything. It's not the first time that he hasn't kind of shown himself in the best light. I get that he's passionate. I get that he's a young man, but we're not the guys that you need to be taking this out on. Show us that you can do something on the pitch. So for me, Tolu has come in, done everything that that header yesterday that's pure striker. Just
instinct bang.
Yeah, to get on, firstly, to get on a ball that's coming at that speed at you and then be able to direct it where it's going is incredible. So, yeah, for me, I think he's showing the right kind of attitude to what we want. And actually, I don't think that putting Strand Larsen kind of on the bench or cutting him back a little bit is going to be a bad thing. I think it might give him, if he's the right type of player for us, then I think it'll give him the kick up the arse that he needs to be able to do something. So, yeah, absolutely. Tolu for me on Saturday.
I would not be surprised. Again, this is a bit of an out there call. I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves cash in on Strand Larsen in January. Now, you're not going to get anywhere near the money, probably half the money. But if I think Wolves could recoup some money because they know they're getting relegated, and say a West Ham, for example, who need a centre forward to come in, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. And judging by his recent attitude and his performances, that's probably the best thing for everybody. Couple of other holes to fill, Nocky, beg your pardon. So we've got Mane, who's come on. He's dropped his shoulder. He's whipped a lovely ball in. We've talked about that. Is it going to be too much to start someone like him, or is now the time?
I think he's close to it. I'm just nervous. We do this with young players, don't we? We see a little bit of a spark. We did it with Nathan Fraser when he came on in the Cup a couple of years ago and scored a goal and set one up, and you're thinking, oh, hello, we've got the next Pele here. You've got to be really careful how you manage their minutes. I don't think he's quite ready for a start yet, but I do think he needs more minutes. I think he needs more time on the pitch. But he's a young man. He's going to make mistakes. He's going to make huge errors that cost us, and he's going to panic and he's going to get things wrong. But he's also going to have that youthful exuberance and that effort and that drive to try and do well for the team. For me, he still starts on the bench. But I think if we can start giving him more minutes, more exposure, then sort of the back end of the season, you may be in a position where he's starting and then he's ready for the Championship next season.
Yeah, I think, again, I absolutely agree. But at this point, Nui, what do we have to lose? Because there's a lad that's just full of confidence. There's a lad that's arrived for 24 million euros that did well last season. He's hardly had a game. He's scored 3 great goals for Wolves. He's like a one-on-one. He's just whipped it in the corners, the clip over in the cup, and a fantastic header. We've got a centre forward that if you put him in front of goal, he can clearly finish. Put him with a young player that can run with the ball and with talent. Let's go with them 9 and 10 on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think to Nocky's point, I guess it's we don't want to rush him towards doing something that he's not going to be necessarily comfortable with, or risk him, getting knackered towards the latter part of a game, and then he starts getting abuse from fans. I'm not saying that would be the case, but because of how things are right now, he's not that. You don't want to be getting on the youngsters' backs, and that's the concern that I've got with that. I think keeping him as an impact sub that can come on, can be an absolute nuisance to defenders that are absolutely knackered. I think that's where we go for him with that. And look, in the cup game, let's maybe see if he can start and see how he does in that after 66, 70 minutes. So yeah, that's where
absolutely.
we're
going.
Sorry, mate, you mentioned confidence in terms of where he is now. His confidence is high because he's come on the pitch and he's whipped in an assist.
Yeah.
If you're playing for 90 minutes and he has an absolute stinker and nothing happens for him, you can erode that confidence really quickly. So you've got to be so careful with how you manage him. So I completely agree he needs to be heavily involved in the team, but let's do it on a sensible, slow and steady basis. And let's prep him, let's blood him, and let's get him ready for next season more than thinking he can be our saviour for the next sort of 20-odd games.
I'm going to say a Wolves report first now, and you're not going to be expecting this at all. No, I don't agree with Tyler. I actually think I'm all right with Hwang starting on Saturday. If that's your position down the middle, put Tolo in there. I'm all right with that. Hwang, you're fast. Let's get you in behind. Tolo, I think he can finish as well. I'm not against that, but I think Strand Larsen has to come out of the team now, particularly as Tolo has scored as well. We talked about the midfield briefly. I think Kretsch should go back into centre-back. Then it is a question of who do you bring as the third midfielder, because we don't seem to have anybody left. Whether Fer Lopez could do a job in there, he's the more advanced person. There's lots of plaudits for him. I think this one was talked about briefly here. Let's have a little look. It talked about it. I think Jonty mentioned the coming for Martin start games now along with Fer. If Fer, who looks to me like he could play midfield as well, I wouldn't be against that. But these are the guys that are playing the football. So this guy's clearly talented. We talk about learning him out, but every time he's come on to me recently, this is a guy that's got a bit of swagger. He looks like he glides with the football. So is he worth putting in the part of the three-man field as the more advanced?
I think he probably is now. He's pretty close to it. I think we've spent enough money on him. He's had enough time to settle in now. He's ahead of Mane in terms of minutes and general game time. So for me, it's kind of a now or never piece. Let's have a look at him for a few games. And if he's not there and you do want to loan him out, then you make that decision then. But I don't think we've given him enough of an opportunity to see exactly what he can do before we're looking to lump him out.
Yeah, this is a strange one for me, Noah, because you know what, the Premier League's brutal. It's fast, that you don't get a second to think. But I mean, he's 6'1". He's a big boy, so physically he will adapt. He's clearly a nice footballer. But when we give him 2 or 3 runs, two or three games on the bench to go and show him, we literally have nothing to lose. Let's have a look at him.
It's a really strange one for me. I mean, as soon as I heard it about Lopez, I was like, why? Why would you do that when we are where we are? I think he looks fantastic, and I think there's a definite baller in there. But like you said, the Premier League is ruthless. You know, if you do make a mistake, then you're there. But yeah, give him a chance, give him a run, and see where we go.
We are at the point where we literally have nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
John C, thank you for being part, as always, of this latest Wolves Report, episode 148. Gentlemen, it's prediction time. To boost you for some positive predictions, I'm going to put you this artwork up that'll boost the mood and make you feel happy about yourself. Wolverhampton Wanderers taking on Brentford on Saturday afternoon at Molineux. 2 centre-backs out, 1 suspended, 1 away on international duty. Loses a hole in midfield, so Wolves will be weaker than they were. However, nearly got a point at Arsenal, boys. It's on, isn't it? Nocky, first scorer and prediction, please.
I do think we'll lose, but I don't want to keep going for us to lose. So I'm going to try a bit of optimism and see if that works. I'll go for a 2-0 Wolves win. First
out of town.
And I'm going to go with Tolu to start the game and bang the opener in.
We're absolutely cooking. Noe, over to you.
3-0 Brentford. I'm only joking. I'm only joking. No, actually, you know, I'm hopeful that we'll get something else. I'm going to go 2-1 Wolves, and I'm going to go Hwang for first goal.
Absolutely, we'll take anybody. I'm going to go 1-0 Wolves, and I'm also going to go Hwang. Look at that artwork; it's just so beautiful. This has been episode 148 of the Wolves Report. Nui from the Old Gold Pack, thank you so much. I know we have a busy week speaking together. Nocky, as always, thank you for your captaincy and leading the kids through the show of the Wolves.